Welcome to Sporting News Audio. My name is David A. Arnott, sitting here with Ryan Fagan, and we are winding down the Major League Baseball season. The pennant races are resolving themselves, but there's still a lot of drama going on, not the least of which between the Reds and the Cardinals, but, that's maybe too hot for radio, as it were. Lots of naughty language. Read it on sportingnews.com. Tony La Russa, all sorts of crazy stuff. A manager got fired recently, Don Wakamatsu of the Mariners. And then on the field, we've also got a playoff preview, perhaps, between the Rangers and the Yankees. Ryan, what do you see? What are you going to look to take away from this series?
Well, I think it's just going to be a fascinating opportunity for the Rangers to prove that they can play, and not just play with the Yankees, but to beat the Yankees. And I think that, with the addition of Cliff Lee and the way that Josh Hamilton's playing, this is a team that is good enough to win a playoff series or two. This is a team that, if they get the good starting pitching around Cliff Lee that they've had, for the past couple months, this is a team that can win the World Series. And that sounds crazy to say, but, they have the pieces that, it could happen. And, once you get into that postseason, the Cardinals keep coming back to it. In 2006, they won 83 regular season games, but they got healthy. They had the horses in the rotation. They got great performances, and they won. Were they the best team in baseball that year? No. But they won the World Series. Are the Rangers the best team? No, but they're very capable of winning the World Series.
One of the things that Cardinals team reminds me of is the difference between playoff baseball and regular season baseball. Right. In playoff baseball, of course, the pitching staffs get compressed. The benches don't matter nearly as much. You get someone like Albert Pujols on your team, and that team really did play like a first-place team all the way through. Do you think that the Rangers have something along those lines where they don't really need their bench or the back end of their rotation as long as they've got Cliff Lee up front and then those sluggers? What are you going to do against them in that short series?
Well, I think that there are a couple of trades that were made this year that were made, with the sights set on the postseason, and that getting Cliff Lee for the Rangers was one of them. Cliff Lee won 4 games last year in the postseason. The Rangers as a franchise have won 1 in their entire history. Another was the Phillies picking up Roy Oswalt. They wanted a guy that, if and when they got to the postseason, could win games all by himself, and I think that's why, those two teams improved themselves, more than for the postseason. And like the Padres, I think they improved themselves very much for the regular season. But, the Rangers and the Phillies, they really improved themselves for the postseason series.
Now, the other big series that's potentially coming down to a playoff race is the Cardinals and the Reds. And Tony La Russa had some words for some Reds over there, at least one Red. We see something simmering here, especially with so many ex-Cardinals on the Reds.
Yeah, Tony La Russa had a definite retort for Brandon Phillips' comments about the Cardinals. I think that Phillips, he's a guy who, he wants to win. And in the time that he's been in Cincinnati, they haven't won. They haven't come close to winning. That franchise hasn't been to the postseason since 1995. They had a shot at one-game playoff in 1999 that they lost. But since then, they've been a team that has really been well under 500 and has consistently performed under expectations. I think they have the opportunity now, and I think Phillips just got a little carried away. He got caught up. He said some things he shouldn't have said. And what makes it interesting is because, not only are there so many Cardinals, ex-Cardinals on that Reds team, and Scott Rowland, Jimmy Edmonds, who they just picked up, Russ Springer, but there are 5 or 6 former Reds that play for the Cardinals right now, are on the Cardinals roster. So you have all this familiarity with it, and I think that's what really isn't going to sit well with Phillips' comments, not only in the Cardinals clubhouse, but in the Reds clubhouse too.
Yeah, Walt Jocketty, yes, GM of the Reds, was the architect of those Cardinals teams, and in many ways has been trying to rebuild the Reds in those Cardinals image.
Right, and you look at the way that first game of the series went down, and I think the Cardinals came into that series 2 games down, but they had to love the matchup in that first game because you have Chris Carpenter going for the Cardinals, a guy who's as hardened, a veteran, intense competitor as there is, going up against a kid, Mike Leake, who's a rookie, and he's had a fantastic rookie year, but he's struggled a little bit lately. He's to the point where pretty much every inning he throws from now on is more than he's ever thrown in his career, and there's a definite exponential factor to throwing all these innings. So I think that the Cardinals liked where they were coming into that series, and it played out exactly how I wanted to. They jumped on the kid Leak early, and Carpenter really, did the job and shut him down the rest of the way.
Going from the penthouse of a pennant race to the outhouse of, I guess, dashed expectations, the Seattle Mariners fired their manager, Don Wakamatsu, and pretty much all of their Major League coaching staff just recently. What is going on with them? I remember there were all sorts of expectations for the Mariners, especially after their surprising season last year where they were competitive for a lot of the season. They're just bad this year.
It's shocking in a way if you look at where they were a year ago. A team that under Wakamatsu played, above expectations. They bettered what everyone thought they were capable of. And then they go out in the offseason, they get Cliff Lee, and they make some other moves. But really what they didn't do was they didn't get offense. And that was the team's Achilles heel last year. The pitching staff carried that team to an above 500 record last year, and the offense was really bad. And they didn't do anything to help the offense except for bring in Milton Bradley, which obviously, wasn't even close to enough. They let Russell Branyan, a guy who was a power hitter for them, they let him walk as a free agent. So I think, that they really weren't set up to repeat the success of last year. And I think, when you look at the way things went down that led to Wakamatsu getting fired, it's all going to come back to the whole Griffey Jr. Episode, where he wasn't physically capable of being a full-time player anymore, and he didn't, from all accounts, he didn't really seem to grasp that, and the clubhouse didn't seem to grasp that, and when Wakamatsu sat him down and made him a bench player, that didn't go over so well, and I think everything kind of stems from right there, and from all reports, you've heard that he lost the clubhouse, and when a manager loses the clubhouse, whether it's his fault or not, it's easier to replace one person than it is, 25 guys on a roster. So he's the one that took the fall for that.
At a certain point, what else is there to do? What else is there to do but have the clubhouse on your side?
Right. I think the thing is if you look at the 4 or 5 people who are most responsible for the Mariners playing so poorly this year, Wakamatsu is not in the top 3, but he's the one that eventually took the fall.
Ryan, thanks for joining us on Sporting News Audio.
Thanks, David.